Let's go to Samantha in Chicago. What's up, Samantha?
Hey, how are you?
Just rocking on to the break of dawn. How about you?
Awesome, doing great.
Excellent. So what's up?
All right, so my husband's currently in a graduate program to become a Christian licensed professional counselor. So I wanted to call in and get your perspective. More specifically,
I haven't heard
specializing.
Hold on a second. I haven't heard of. So is he getting his LPC?
Yeah, he's getting his LPC
Okay.
at a Christian university with the plan to specialize in drug and alcohol recovery at a Christian facility, wherever that's going to be.
So he's going to become a licensed counselor, and he happens to be a person of faith.
Yeah, and actually as he's going through the program, he's realizing more and more, while the whole world needs help, it will be difficult for him to kind of intertwine Jesus and that part into the spiritual healing of people in kind of secular institutions. So he's kind of targeting specifically drug and alcohol recovery because that's part of his testimony, how he came to Christ, as well as Christian organizations. So that's kind of what he's working towards, and I'm totally supportive of that. And when we met, he was in his undergrad for psychology and counseling, and he was kind of focusing more towards counseling men. So he went through a Christian recovery program that was men only, and he's planning to intern at that place as well.
Okay.
But as we got married a year ago, and this is kind of I've been Christian 3 years. He's been Christian 6 years. Where our first relationship is being Christian. So trying to apply things from the Bible and marriage and boundaries with opposite sex has been just a challenge in a lot of different areas. So when it comes to friendships and even I work in finance, so the nature of my job is not spiritually or emotionally intimate. But in any case, if I have meetings or one-on-one with men or anything like that, it's all transparent. That's the type of stuff that we can talk about. So some of my struggles or concerns with if he does decide to also counsel women is just I have a lack of comfort with that because generally counseling is private. It's one-to-one, often behind closed doors, and definitely confidential. There's a lot of intimate topics that are discussed. I myself am in counseling, and so is he. So we know what kind of things are talked about. And while I do understand it's one way, it's client to counselor, honestly, I just don't really like the idea of another woman sharing their hearts and soul with my husband, and kind of believe that's reserved for marriage. Now, I do trust him, but I do know that we're sinners at heart. And for me, it's just it just doesn't feel safe, like we're putting in good boundaries or safeguarding when there are great options to just counsel men. And
hold on. So let me break in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say this as kindly as I can, but as directly as I can, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Your marriage is not safe right now.
Okay.
You have some very deep trust challenges with the person, either with yourself or with the person you're married to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what your faith persuasion is. I don't care what your professions are. Y'all need to get together ASAP and deal with the trust issues. Whether you're bringing them to the table and you've been hurt in the past, or you've made bad decisions in the past, or this guy has made bad decisions in his past, etc.
Right.
A counselor is like a surgeon, like a doctor, like a plumber. They are trained professional. And part of the training is how to remain objective, how to be honest with yourself, how to sit in consulting, how to fill in the blank. Is counseling intimate? You better believe it is. But is there a difference between that relational intimacy that happens in a professional setting and sexual intimacy? There better be, or that person shouldn't be a therapist.
Yeah. And I know just trust issues, I know I have that, so I'm aware, and I'm in individual counseling, so is he, and we are also in marriage counseling, so we're covering all the bases, and ultimately it's going to be prayers with God. So actually what I'm doing, and I've thought this out with other, like a woman professional counselor, and ask this question too, because what I want to do is to get other perspectives that are different than my own to
Good for you. Good for you.
be more objective. So I think that besides the trust issues, which for sure is ongoing, and for me, it's not just like the counseling jump. We just have, or myself personally, just issues when it comes to opposite sex.
Yes.
But the one aspect that I really struggle with, and I think it is outside of the trust issue, is understanding that it is a profession and there's ethics and standards and everything that counselors abide by.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's different than being a plumber or a surgeon that is doing surgery, because this is like emotional and spiritual intimacy that another woman is sharing. But the biggest part of that is the confidential nature of counseling. So if I'm experiencing, emotionally intimate conversations with another man in whatever setting, or I'm going to a male doctor, these are all meetings that I could share with my husband. It's not something that he can't know about, or he can't know about.
You're getting exactly, you're making my point for me. This has nothing to do with counseling at all. This has to do with the fact that your husband's going to have a part of his life that you won't have access to, and something about that makes you crazy.
Yes, exactly.
And so that is your challenge to work through. And this is, you've got to be okay with it.
I know, but when it comes to, being a Christian and the covenant and sacredness and transparency of marriage, to me, it feels like, okay, we're supposed to be one. We're supposed to just be in each other's lives and total transparency between the two of us. And then there's this major part of his life that he'll be spending, more time in, because work is generally more time than with family. And it's something that I can't have access to because of the nature of the job. And to me, that it feels like a violation to marriage.
And so what you're conflating in a dangerous way is open access and trust. Trust is, faith is, I'm leaning into you and you're leaning into me. And about the things that you want to share with me, I trust that you're honoring this relationship. I trust that you're honoring me. So let's imagine you have some rambunctious dream about an ex-boyfriend. Do you feel like that you're violating your husband's trust if you don't wake him up in the middle of the night and tell him about what you just dreamt? Or is there some stuff you go, whoa, I'm going to hang on to that one?
Mm.
And if you are using faith, you are using your Christian beliefs, you are using this idea of intimacy and marriage and one with somebody else as an excuse to read his diary, as an excuse to get into his clients' folders. And you're conflating two things that have no business being together.
Right.
It's dishonoring. It is unethical. It's wrong to get into somebody else's life if they haven't invited you in. And in the profession that your husband is choosing, they have invited him into that. And you mentioned the doctor, but you mentioned on the other side of it, meaning if you go have a doctor visit with a male doctor, you can go around and tell everybody. He cannot. He can't go home to his family and say, well, I saw so-and-so without her shirt on today. Here's what it looked like. Here's this, here's it. Can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's your privacy. And so you want one side of the teeter-totter, but you expect the other, and it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And so what I'm telling you is, there is some wisdom. You're new at this. Your faith is young. Your faith is new, and you are going all in on it, and I honor that. Good for you. And it sounds like you love this guy so much that you want to share DNA. I mean, you want to line your souls up together, right? I almost said you want to share DNA, and then I realized that's probably not the right way to say that.
Well, if we have a kid, I guess it's technically true.
But you want to mirror at the genetic level. and you can't. And so the piece you have to make is, what does trust look like? What does faith in somebody else look like when I can't know everything? That, my friend, is love.
Yeah. And I wonder, from your perspective with counseling, probably anyone, regardless of gender, just high level, do you have some like ideas of what are some good boundaries? Like some counselors have told me like they don't share their personal number, or, they don't take calls outside of work hours. But the thing I was thinking is like something that could help me besides obviously individual counseling and continuing prayer with God is healthy boundaries. But it's hard to know what's healthy right now because of just all the other stuff that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and you are trying to make his boundaries for him, his professional boundaries for him, because you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And again, you are getting into somebody else's head and thinking their thoughts for them, and then you are trying to respond to those thoughts that haven't even been thought yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're wearing yourself out.
Yeah,
You're
definitely
exhausting yourself. And you're trying to duct tape this all together through a young new faith, and it's slowly pulling you underwater to the point that you are wondering if he should even be doing what he wants to be doing with his life.
Yeah.
And you come at him with verses and chapters, and when he's trying to do an assignment or doing his practicum or doing whatever. And what I'm telling you is your marriage is on really shaky ground.
Yeah.
And so the question is not, are there good boundaries and practices? Absolutely. Do different therapists have different roles? Yes. Some are super firm. Some are more open access. Like, I am your therapist. You can reach me at this time. I think that's dangerous, but not for sexuality stuff, even though that's an issue. Let me be super clear with you. Counselors sleep with their clients. It happens.
Yeah.
And that is, you will get your license taken away, and you will never be able to be in somebody's intimate life again. And that should be that way. Anyone who ever sleeps with a client should immediately be stripped of their license, period. Anyone who kisses a client, hold hands with there is no romance in that setting.
Right.
Right? If you tell your husband, I'm uncomfortable with these things, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to feel those things. And then he's going to have a choice. So I don't want to dishonor your feelings. But I want to tell you that the feelings you have are deeper than just this profession. Because what's going to happen is he's going to quit and he's going to go be a plumber. And then you're going to say, well, are you going to so-and-so's house to fix the dishwasher? He's like, yeah, I just got some client. Her name is Susan. And you're going to say, well, is there going to be any men there? And he'll say, I don't know. I'm just going to fix the dishwasher at this address. So is it just going to be a woman there? And then that's going to make him bananas.
Yeah, like there'll always be something.
There'll always be something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And whether it's a lawn business or a restaurant, when you took that woman's cash, did you touch her hand? Like, it's always going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And so at some point, when you are married, when you love somebody, I have to trust that my wife had an experience today and she chose not to tell me for a reason. I have to trust that. It may be that whenever she tells me about some guy that was rude to her, I bow up like, oh, I'm going to go fight him, or I'm going to call him, or I'll let him know. And she doesn't want to deal with me. Maybe I've made her unsafe. Or maybe she's a big, grown woman. And she's not big, by the way. I realize I'm going to get in trouble for that. She's a grown woman. And she can decide whether, you know what I mean? That's her choice. And there's certain things I've said, hey, if this happens, please let me know. And she then said, I'm going to honor you by doing that. Or that violates my boundaries and I'm not comfortable with that. And then we negotiate those things. But somewhere in your core, honey, you have a major chasm with trust. And I don't know if it's from your childhood. I don't know if it's from your previous romantic relationships, but it is heavy. And you're trying to solve it by knowing every second of every moment of every interaction with your husband, and you're going to make yourself nuts. And you're going to burn the relationship to the ground. And so as you move forward with trust, yes, he has to have professional boundaries. That's between him and his counseling supervisor. Yes, there's going to be things of comfort. If he's cheated on you, if he comes home and he's like, man, this woman was talking about sex and it kind of turned me on, he probably shouldn't be a therapist. But you are allowed to say, hey, these things make me uncomfortable right now. I'm not comfortable with you counseling X, Y, and Z. That's fair. Have those conversations. But I want you to go deeper because you got to deal with your trust issues. And this is about your marriage. This isn't about his job right now. The job, y'all can talk about later. I want y'all to deal with the trust issues here because you're worth being able to breathe. And right now you can't breathe. Trust is so, so hard, especially when it's been broken. But you can heal it. You got to be intentional about dealing with that. Not the peripheral issues, deal with the trust.